Today I want to talk a lot about, first off, I'm going to apologize. I'm here a little bit shorter than I expected to be. As you know, the flooding situation up north and on the Delaware and everything else is going to be very significant today. We expect it to be very significant. I was up when the flooding started earlier in the week. We had the first wave of rain. I was in the helicopter, the state police helicopter, surveying the damage for the governor for the first round of it. We hoped that that was going to be all it was, and since then, obviously, it looks like we're still going to be pushing forward to about 3 inches of rain up north, which for rivers that are already swollen and reservoirs that are already full, the damage is going to be significant, looks like right now. But we're trying to make sure that we're well prepared. The state police are doing a phenomenal job. Office of Emergency Management doing a phenomenal job. The State National Guards is already posted. We've got our groups within DEP positioned also. We have also conservation officers and boats positioned up north also. So apologies, it's one of those days and it's turned into one of those weeks, but state is well positioned. The governor is out in front, monitoring the situation and managing it. So we need to try to work our way through this one over the next several days. The hard part about rivers is snow events come and go. You plow the snow and move it out of the way. When you get rain events like this, easily could last for 4 or 5 days, 6 days potentially, with the amount of rain we're going to get up north on that challenge. So I apologize for being a little bit shorter today than I expected. Last year when I talked to you, I talked about where our vision was for transformation at the DEP. And over this past year, we've put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of focus on that transformation. So, two things I want to talk about. One is what we've already achieved on the transformation. I also want to talk about the achievements we have on the environmental goals we laid out, the goals that the governor's laid out, and we're very proud of those, and the governor's very proud of those goals we've already achieved. And then I started talking about where we're going in the future. Transformation, as you remember, was our program that we focused on last year because a lot of the parts of DEP were broken. We had a burning platform, as I called it, to our people. I put a challenge out to our people at the DEP that we had a burning platform. We had an organization where, we've had, one of my favorite statistics is that over the last 15 years, that in 450 laws, state and federal laws that have been passed that affect the DEP, 150 of those laws caused significant changes to the way we had to do things at the DEP. You take that and you apply the regulations that are required to make those laws work, and all of a sudden you end up with a patchwork of legislation and laws that got to the point where it makes it impossible, or virtually impossible, for us to get permits out the door effectively, do the inspections we need to do, and to do the enforcement process efficiently. And even sometimes at all, because we can't figure out, our guys can't figure out what even we wrote in some cases for permitting. So we've gotten to the point where we had to start fixing what was going on at the DEP. At the same time, the staffing at the DEP over that same time period has gone from about 4,000 people to about 2,800 people. So we've got more laws, more regulations, more work to do, and we're down dramatically on personnel. Those are the challenges. And it's a lot easier to lay out those challenges to our own people. Transformation has got to come from within at the DEP. There's some things we're going to do on the outside, but it's got to come from inside. And one of the things that I've challenged my people very much so is that we need to get together and work together on these challenges. We need to focus on finding the problems that we got to solve and go forward. And so it's turned out to be very, very helpful and a very great way for us to challenge it. Some of the other challenges we had was, bottom line, we had to keep the parks and wildlife areas open in the state. We've just been running barely on the edge for long term. We had to think of a new paradigm of how we're going to do that. The complexities of getting things done at the DEP continue to compound, and we had to start looking at it. And again, one of the things, and Gary will tell you too, one of the things when I arrived at DEP that I really thought was going to be one of the major problems was that I was going to have 3,000 people that didn't want to do their job and didn't want to help. You know what? I really was horribly wrong. There are 2,800 people in that organization that get up every day, that worry about the environment, are very professional, and the education level in that organization is phenomenal. We've got virtually everybody has a bachelor's degree, most have masters, and just a hell of a lot of PhDs in that organization. It's people that are dedicated their lives to the environment. But what I found, when you start tapping into that group and get them focused in direction, that was an organization that right now is all coming around to saying they understand, they get it, where we want to go. The biggest portion of what we talked about, and you've heard me say this before, is changing the culture at the DEP. Changing how we think about what we do, thinking about how we deal with our stakeholders on an external basis. We're also going to continue to focus on our core mission. You know, protecting the environment will always be our core mission of the DEP. But at the same time, we've added an additional mission, that our job also is to help grow the economy of this state. We have to grow the economy of this state. Still sitting at 9% unemployment in this state, we recognize that organizations like the DEP can hold up creating jobs in this state long term. A lot of businesses walked away from this state because of the fact that they couldn't grow here, or just getting permits was going to take 2-3 years to get permits in the state. That's not acceptable. We started putting a culture in place where, you know what, the answer, we're going to respond to people, we're going to answer, and I'm going to talk about customer service in a minute, but the answer, when you get an answer, you're going to get a quick answer. Even if that answer is no, you're going to get a quick no, and we're going to tell you why the answer is no. We got this great letter, and I wish I brought it because I would love to read it to you. We got a letter from an engineer who was building a house at the shore, and he wanted to expand his house. I'm sure he wanted to expand it into the dune a bit and all the rest of that. And he sent a letter, and he said, you know, I talked to one of your engineers who denied my permit, a CAFRA permit, to expand my house. And I talked to her several times, and every time I called her, she answered the phone. Every time, you know, and she could have dodged it. She could have let the phone ring too. I wouldn't have to answer the question. But she answered the phone every time, or she called me back right away. And she didn't dodge the question. She didn't make some BS answer up just to, or blame somebody else. She said, here's the regulation says. And I'd love to help you, and maybe we could work out a different way if you want to go this way with it. But the bottom line is the answer is no. And you know what? And she explained very clearly why it was no and what else they potentially could do. And this guy wrote a letter. He said, it's the first time I ever wrote a letter to somebody who told me no, because she was very professional. She dealt with me as you know, truly with respect, and answered my questions. And I said, I've never gotten that from the state government agencies before. And then here's a guy who was an engineer who had dealt with a lot of permits in the state, but was getting straight answers for a change. So again, that's how the culture, and I've taken that. In fact, I just read that to all my managers the other day. All 200 of my managers I had in a conference room or in a hall in our public meeting room. And I read that letter to them, and I said, that's what I want. That's the kind of response I want every letter, everybody has their experience with the DEP. Customer service is and what I just described is the cornerstone of our transformation, the transformation of the culture. It's about changing, it's about customer service. It's about answering that phone. When somebody calls you, you call them right back. If somebody calls you, you own the problem. You don't pass them off to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. They called, that you answer their question. And if you can't answer their question, you get back to them right away. You get the person who can get back to them and give them the answer. Somebody sends you a letter. You know, don't send them another letter. I mean, I've got files of letters sent back and forth from the DEP to somebody. You know, it's like, forget the letter. Put the letter aside, call the person, understand their problem. Understand their problem. Because most of the time, as you know, you can't get it from a letter. So we send back a letter that responds to an answer that wasn't their problem at the end of the day. And so we're getting people, get on the phone and respond to them right away. You send an email, you send an email back. You deal with people out in the field. And again, customer service is not just the guys dealing with permits. We got conservation officers out there. I got park police out there. We got site remediation guys out there. They're all out in the field. They all have that customer interaction that reflects not just on just the bureaucracy called the state. It reflects on me and it reflects on the governor. And we said that's not the image we want. We want a government that's responsive. So part of the big piece we're pushing is customer service, All my managers have gone through customer service training. We're now rolling through the entire organization. So all 2,800 people, by July, all 2,800 people at the DEP will have gone through customer service training, and which is just amazing. Whether you're a park policeman, whether you're doing site remediation, whether you're a maintenance guy in a park, you're going to go through customer service training. And again, that's how we respond going forward. A big part of what we're focused on with our transformation program is transparency and predictability. We continue to make sure we have stakeholders involved, both internal and external. Again, that is part of any rule or regulation, any process that has to go on requires stakeholder involvement, which includes a lot of you. We've invited a lot of you to the table, so we bring in all different organizations so that we're getting all different points of view before we make decisions. Another major portion of transformation is regulatory reform. We've peeled off the top 48 regulations that are the most egregious, if you will, or the most difficult ones that are causing problems with regulation or how they're applied within the state. And we're going through those one by one by one. Even if they're not up for sunset review, we're bringing them up now and saying, how should we look at these regulations? The ones that we've looked at, and we're looking at them not the lower environmental standards. That is not our goal. Our goal is to make sure we can get through these regulations much more efficiently. How can we get through the process much more efficiently? For example, right now, we've taken 3 of the most toughest rules we have. Our CAFR rules, our flood hazard rules, and our freshwater wetland rules. All 3 of those together, from a land use point of view, all of you know, cause an incredibly difficult time when you try to get through a permitting process. Instead of just taking each one of those in a silo, we're taking all 3 of those together, putting them on a table at the same time, and opening them all up at the same time, and finding a way to make sure they all work together long term. So the process is the same, the permits are similar or very close to the same, and they all fit together, they all plug together long term. That's how we're going to go do it going forward. We established our Office of Permit Coordination, which has gained us a lot of praise from a lot of you and a lot of business people who have come into the table. A lot of environmentalist groups have praised us. A lot of mayors have praised the work we've done through the single Office of Permit Coordination. That office allows somebody to come in up front with their initial plans, and we work through with them longer term how it's all going to work. We've established or reestablished the Office of Dispute Resolution. That office was in place up until about 5 or 6 years ago, and it dissolved. We put it back in place. Office of Dispute Resolution allows us to solve several problems with companies that have gone through. They disagree with the resolution of something, but they have a place to go where we can discuss it, and settle it in a lot of cases. The backlog of cases we have right now at the Attorney General's office with the DEP is just astronomical. We can't get through those, they can't get through them. Office of Dispute Resolution allows for a mechanism to solve problems up front before they have to go to the AG's office to get solved through a legal process. And again, it's finding a way to work with both the business community, the environmental community, and the cities and towns and other organizations and individuals as we go forward. We're putting more e-permitting in place. We continue to expand that. And we continue to roll out more general permits online. Our goal is to get most of the permits we have online, and we continue to put a lot of money and a lot of focus on that. That's the key cornerstone of how we get a lot of the process improvements, is through technology. We have to go to technology more so than ever. When customer service is critical, and working and trying to work on regulations is critical, but getting ultimately the technology to do a lot more than ever, where you can go online and just sort your permits out, makes a dramatic difference. One of the things you're going to hear from me even more so as we go on, and you've heard me say this too, the culture change is going to occur at the DEP, but the culture change is also going to happen with all of you too. As we go forward, we're going to keep pushing back. When applications come in our door, you're no longer we're not going to be the guys that, I've had more complaints come to me that have been, and I've asked, I try to peel back what the problems are, and I find that the applications for a lot of these permits that come in the door, it's not a matter of our guys aren't doing their job, we're not following up on it. There's a lot of poor applications that are coming in the door. Incomplete, they're not done right, they've got the wrong documents, they've got the wrong GIS documents with it, backing it up. You know, some of them I put on the edge of fraudulent from what I've seen come in the door. You know, poor is one thing, but there's a lot of companies are paying good money for engineers and lawyers and others, professionals, to get those applications, to do them right. We're going to push back real hard when applications come in the door and you're expecting us to do the correction work. That's not our job, to do the correction work. There's a lot of professionals out there. We're going to work with you. We're going to do training out there long term. That's going to be a key component. We're changing our culture. We're going to change the culture out there with a lot of you and a lot of the other organizations we work with going forward. Our environmental achievements over the last year have been significant. The governor laid out, as candidate Chris Christie, laid out a significant number of environmental achievements or goals that he wanted, and we've delivered on those goals. There's still a long list still to go. We're going to continue to work on that list as we go forward. But having that list makes a difference. That's the list that I put out there, that I point to my team and my people and say, that's the list of priorities. I don't want to get whipsawed by any organization that comes in here. You know, when environmental group comes in, I don't want to get whipsawed to the next item of the day. That's not acceptable. And even, or a business group that comes in and says, I want you to do this on the environment, can we do this now instead? No, we're focused on that list. That's what we put out there. We put a transformation agenda out there very clearly. We put out goals on the environment very clearly. That makes it easy for my team to focus. It makes it clear what we're going to be working on. That is the priority. We're going to put our time and our efforts making things happen. Some of those major achievements include Barnegat Bay initiative, where we're going to be closing Oyster Creek 10 years earlier than their permit that they have right now. We believe that and obviously Exelon, we've worked with Exelon to achieve that goal going forward. We've also focuses on addressing a lot of the issues within Barnegat Bay, of the nutrients going into the Barnegat Bay, dealing with stormwater systems, soil compaction, and then long-term, looking at how we deal with the bay with a research point of view, and how to restore that bay long-term. Protecting water. As you know, the governor's been very clear about no offshore drilling off the coast of New Jersey. It's been very clear that we're not going to have port facilities off the coast that deal with LNG. Again, still protecting the coast from industrialization. The governor and the legislature put forward last year and signed off on over $800 million worth of EIT funding for zero interest and low interest loans for the clean water of the state, for rebuilding the infrastructure for clean water and sewage treatment long term. Again, we're going to continue to push that effort long term. My goal is to continue to expand that program even further than we have today. Long-term issues in the state are going to be clean water. We need to start working on the infrastructure to rebuild it long-term. Protecting the air. Another major achievement of this administration is to fight very hard on protecting the air of the state. We filed what's called a 126 petition with the EPA against the Portland Power Plant. We've been caught up in court for years and years with Portland Power Plant. That one coal power plant, which is right on the Delaware River across from Warren County, spews more air emissions than all our coal plants in the state of New Jersey. We've got 7 coal plants in the state of New Jersey. That one plant blowing across to New Jersey spews more SOx and NOx into the state of New Jersey than all our plants together. Unacceptable. EPA is now actively involved. We will, if we win on that one, which we expect to win, we plan EPA coming back to us by the end of this month, and hopefully rules in our favor, which would require them to put the emissions on that plant going forward. We've completed the Passaic River Flooding Commission advisory report on that one. Obviously, not soon enough on a lot of cases. But as I tell everybody, the Passaic River Basin has been flooding for thousands of years. Our plan is we put together a 15-point plan that addresses both the short-term and long-term issues around, and it's focused on, there is no silver bullet for stopping the flooding in the Passaic River Basin. There is no silver bullet. You know, that we looked at, it's interesting, we read the 1903 report on the Flood Commission. It says the exact same thing we're saying now. And the number one thing was stop building. Stop building in 1903. Imagine the building that's gone on in over 100 years up in that region. And it still continued to build up there. The other day when I was flying over it, the most obvious thing to me about what I saw up there was, as you fly over, the number of homes that are not even just in the floodplains, the 10, 20, 30-year floodplains, are the houses that are in the floodway. I mean, the rivers are coming through their backyards, and they're at the same level. There's no elevation in any of those homes. They're going to flood. It's obvious they're going to flood long-term. So we put together a long-term plan. The governor's approved that plan, so we're going to continue driving it, and it's going to take a long time to address those issues. Unfortunately for the residents up there, but the biggest portion of it is we're going to have to drive to fix it long-term. We focused on green energy. As you know, we've been pushing offshore wind. That will be a major industry in the state. The governor and the legislature have passed and signed the Offshore Energy Development Act. That bill will help encourage the growth of offshore wind. New Jersey is way out in front of most states. We have the opportunity to build a whole new industry in this state. In the area of Paulsboro right now, we're cleaning up that site. We're preparing that site as a major location for offshore wind with a whole new port facility long-term. We expect to bring in thousands of jobs in the short term and then thousands more in the long term for all the offshore wind we plan to build for the state of New Jersey. And not just to provide for New Jersey, but provide for all the other states along the Atlantic. We're talking to multiple companies right now, and it's not just building the wind turbines, but it's all the full supply chain of equipment that has to be built. It's shipping companies for the shipping, and then it's operation and maintenance crews that have to be in place long term. There are thousands of jobs, and New Jersey's out in front driving that effort.